There's nothing more annoying, having spent hours preparing the perfect presentation and rehearsing it down to the last minute, than to be put off your stride by somebody in the audience hijacking it, especially when you have a strict time limit. You prepared 6 slides and you get taken off on so many tangents you never even get past slide 1. And there are some people, unfortunately, who seem to relish doing this type of thing almost as a demonstration of their power. They do it just because they can. Now, if you're presenting to a customer or to people more senior than yourself, it's impossible to completely prevent interruptions. But there are certain things you can do to minimize them. The first thing is to have a powerful opening. Now, it might seem strange, you can't see a link between your opening and the interruptions you get, but I want to come back to this point right at the end. The second is to always give them the big picture first. Many people in senior executive positions are big picture people. In fact, it's this ability to see the wood from the trees which has got them in that senior position in the first place. And if we think of the points you're trying to make as bricks, big picture people can't concentrate on individual bricks. They have no purpose or value or function unless they know what type of building is being built. So you need to always tell them where you're going with the presentation. Now, I don't mean give a detailed 5-minute breakdown of an agenda, because that itself will invite interruptions. You simply say something like, today I'm going to talk about X, Y, Z, and I'm going to cover 5 things. The first is the problem and what it's costing us. Second is the various alternatives we've looked at. Third is the solution we want to get approval for today. Fourth is the costs. And fifth is the implications on ABC. Now that they know that the costs are going to be covered in section 4 and the implications on ABC will be covered in section 5, they're less likely to ask a question about that in section 1. The second thing to do is to lay down some ground rules, to put questions at the end, but to do it in a way which looks like it's a benefit to them. So you say, I've also put aside some time for questions at the end. Amanda's shown me your agenda for today, and I know you have a lot of things to cover off. If I take questions as and when they come up, the danger is I'll overrun the half an hour you've allotted me and take 45 minutes or an hour, and neither of us want that. So I think I've covered all of the main points within the presentation. If I haven't, you ask me at the end, I'll be happy to cover them. Is that okay? Now ask, is that okay at the end? Because very few people are going to disagree, and once they've agreed to it, they will subconsciously feel obliged to stick to the rules. Now, even if they do interrupt with a question, at least they know they're breaking the rules in doing so. But you can't blame them for doing it if they didn't know questions were supposed to be at the end in the first place. The third thing is to make sure your slides are simple and easy to understand. People almost seem paranoid nowadays about the number of slides in their deck. So they'll say, oh, it's okay, I've only got half a dozen slides. But what they've done is they've taken enough information for 25 slides and crammed them into 6, with the result that they're incredibly complex and very difficult to understand for anybody apart from the author of the slides. Now, you know what they're supposed to say because you wrote the slide, but very often for someone who's looking at the slide for the first time, it's incredibly complex and we don't know what the hell's going on. You can't blame someone for jumping in and interrupting and asking for a point of clarification if you've made your slides complex. So strip out anything that doesn't need to be there. Don't worry about the number of slides. If you use 50 slides, it doesn't matter. The time your presentation takes is the key thing. And providing you stick to the time slot, whether you take 6 slides or 50 slides is a complete irrelevance. When you strip down the information that's going to be on each slide, build it. Don't put it on all at once. There's a reason that software like Keynote or PowerPoint have a build process. You cannot put 5 bullet points on a slide and then say, ignore bullet points 2 to 5, I just want to talk about number 1 at the moment. Human nature is that if information is on the slide, we will be reading it. And your job is to keep our attention on the bit that you're talking about. So build it. Now, if you still get interruptions after this, don't be afraid to stand your ground. If you set the ground rules that said questions will come at the end and they've agreed to that, don't be afraid to say, Mike, that's a very good question. I think I cover that in a couple of slides, but if I don't, please raise it again at the end and I'll be happy to go over it then. Now, it takes guts to do this, especially if the person is senior to you. But one of three things has happened. Either she's going to turn around and say, okay, in which case there's no problem, or somebody else in the audience, perhaps senior to her, will jump in and say, yeah, let's leave that to the end. Or she'll dig her heels in and say, no, I want an answer now. And if that's the case, well, surrender gracefully and answer the interruption. If the person's senior to you, you can't actually dig your heels in and say, no, I'm not going to. Now, I said at the beginning, I'd come back to the importance of having a great opening. When you get on your feet to give your presentation, your audience may have already seen 3, 4, 5 presentations that day. If not that day, certainly that week. And most of those presentations will have been pretty boring and uninteresting, predictable, padded out with waffle. And I think the default state of mind when the audience watches a new presenter get on their feet is, here we go again. So you can't really blame them for wanting to interrupt and get the thing over with, to cut to the chase, cut through the waffle and get to the point that they're really interested in. Now, if you get on your feet and start with, good morning everybody, my name is Nick Skellen, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come along and talk to you today. The message you're giving is, yes, I am the same as everybody else. And you're going to invite interruptions right from the start. Instead, your opening should give the message, hey, this isn't like all of the other presentations you've seen before. This is different. It's interesting, it's entertaining, it's valuable. And the effect you want to have on the audience is for them to sit up and think, oh, wow, this sounds a bit different. I want to listen to this. Now, if they want to listen to you, rather than just get through the presentation, they're far less likely to interrupt. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out my 3.5-hour online video on how to open a presentation with impact, because you can get it for free for a limited period by following the link that's on the screen now. It's 32 bite-sized videos, so you can watch it whenever and wherever you like. You can binge watch the whole thing, or you can consume it 5 minutes at a time, depending on your schedule.